And I know people are saying, okay, Ezra, we get it. Yeah, oil and gas. But no. There are so many millions of workers who think, whoa, you're coming for me, especially with Joe Biden saying, oh, the unions love me, and the unions, and don't worry, this Green New Deal, there's going to be trillions of jobs. Yeah, but everyone who works in oil and gas or pipeline or trucking, they heard you loud and clear. Here, let's watch the clip again. Let's take a look.
Okay, I have one final
Would
question.
he close down the oil industry?
It falls.
Would you close
It
down the
falls.
oil
By
industry?
the way, I would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Whoa.
That's
Transition.
a big statement.
It is a big statement
That's a big
because
statement.
I would stop
Why would you do that?
because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
And here's the deal, but you
That's a
can't
big
do
statement.
that. Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time.
We
And
have
that's
one
maybe the
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay,
Because
we have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question,
is he is
Mr.
going to
President.
destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas?
Just to say hello again, I'm Ezra Levant, Rebel Commander here at rebelnews.com. My friend Sheila Gunn, Reid, our chief reporter out west. Sheila, I started 2 hours ago by saying that the moderator tonight, Kristen Welker, is a Democrat, and indeed she is. But I have to say, I thought she was pretty fair. And I thought the topics were fair. I thought she was prickly and on roughly an even basis. I thought she permitted candidates to respond to swipes. I don't think she over commented on things. Like she had a few comments herself. She, she described. I mean, she wasn't completely neutral, but that was by far the most neutral debate I've seen in the United States in various election cycles. Not just this season, but 4 years ago and 4 years before that. I thought both candidates did fairly well for their teams too. There wasn't too much crosstalk. I think the microphone muting thing actually sort of worked. And let me say this about Donald Trump, who I thought did not do particularly well last time. I thought he did very well this time. I have one criticism. I think he was a little vague, and I didn't understand all of his allusions when he was talking about some of the Hunter Biden revelations. I don't think he made it clear what he was talking about.
Yeah.
He took the bait and was too defensive on his own income taxes for too long. But other than that, Trump was excellent. I thought he was very strong on helping Black Americans with tangibles, investment zones, money for historically Black colleges and universities. I thought he was really tough on Biden on Black prisoners. Now, I don't know the percentage of Black Americans who are going to vote for Trump, but boy, they got the case made today. But you know what? Absolutely no doubt about it. The highlight of the debate, I'm not going to call it a kill shot. I don't think there was one, but the moment that was surprising, I think I gasped out loud, was when Joe Biden said he believed the oil industry needed to be phased out. And Trump couldn't believe it. He sort of said, wow, mark that. I mean, it was so shocking. And Trump wisely let Biden keep talking. And Biden did keep talking. It wasn't a gaffe. He means it. And his Green New Deal and the AOC. I mean, when Trump was talking about $100 trillion, okay, maybe, maybe not. But when you heard out of Biden's own mouth, I will phase out the oil industry. What? By the way, the demand for oil in the world has never been higher. It's dipped over the last 6 months because of the pandemic, but that is not a structural dip. That's just a temporary dip. Oil and gas booming across America. You saw Biden saying, oh, no, I'm not against fracking. You can frack both oil and gas, by the way.
Yep.
But then he says, oh yeah, I'd phase out oil. Oil, a multi-trillion-dollar industry, an essentially American industry, an industry in places like Pennsylvania, Ohio, Texas, Alaska, all the Gulf states. That to me was an incredible moment. And I know the mainstream media doesn't care because the mainstream media lives in New York, Washington, and LA. And they don't think about oil, although they love their private jets and their cars. But so many Americans work in oil and gas. I know for a fact 200,000 people in Pennsylvania work directly for oil and gas fracking, and then those who depend on them. When Joe Biden says, I will phase out oil, Trump says, whoa, and Biden repeats it. Oh, I predict, Sheila, you will see ads in Pennsylvania tomorrow on that. That was as close as a kill shot as you got tonight, in my view. Last point, Trump was strong on immigration, at least for his base. He was talking to Black Americans very strongly. That's not his base. That's his growth area. But boy, was he strong on, you know, deportations and ICE and people not showing up for their immigration hearings. He was strong on that last point. He was excellent on the Paris Global Warming Accords and saying windmills. And even when Joe Biden said, oh, I don't like Black people living near factories. And Trump said, what, they're making a lot of money. I thought it was a strong performance by Trump. He controlled himself. The format helped control him, as in the mics being off. The moderator exceeded my expectations. I thought it was a great debate. I really enjoyed it. It went by quickly. I'm going to give it to Trump on points.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we saw Trump at his best behavior. He really knew the numbers. Speaking, when, you know, like you, I was amazed at his list when he spoke directly to Black America. Before we came on air, I see the Breitbart published a clip of Joe Biden in the 70s using the N-word enough times to make Wendy Mesley blush. So, you know, Donald Trump's track record speaks for itself. Another thing that I noticed that I thought maybe Joe Biden needs to call his friend Kamala Harris and talk about is that he advocates for no jail for drug crimes. And I thought, well, that is something that the drug cartels are definitely going to abuse. I'm not trafficking drugs. I'm just addicted. But we know that Kamala Harris was disproportionately locking up Black perpetrators of drug crimes when she was the top cop. And so that's another thing that Joe Biden seems to be out of step with Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is shamelessly against fracking. She absolutely is. And, you know, and Joe Biden, he might say he's against fracking, but when at the end of the debate, he says, oh, but we need to transition. Those are such Trudeau words, by the way. We need to transition away from fossil fuels. Well, then you can't be pro-fracking. You have to be against fracking if you're going to transition away from it. And Trump immediately identified the states that would hurt. He said, are you listening, Texas? Are you listening, Oklahoma? He pointed out to those voters in those states, this guy's going to put you out of work. And I thought that was a very powerful moment.
Yeah, not that Texas or Oklahoma, although some Democrats.
They don't need the help.
But Pennsylvania is absolutely a knife's edge state. And the county that made the difference last time is Washington County on the west side of the state, where fracking basically saved every coal dying, steel dying. Fracking came in and gave everyone hope. So you can't say transition away from that. You want fracking to grow. 200,000 jobs in Pennsylvania. Those are new jobs. This is not a sunset industry. This is not some ancient, salt mine that's been there since the medieval times. Fracking is 10 years old. So it's not, it is not a phase-out sunset industry. Not that any industry should be phased out by a politician, but it's the industry that came in to save the day in the Rust Belt. These are the towns that Bruce Springsteen would sing about. You know, Foreman says these jobs are going, boys, and they ain't coming back from his song, My Hometown. Very sad song. All his songs were about Rust Belt towns shutting down because the steel and the coal were going where? Going to China. Joe Biden's paymaster. Fracking, you know what? I know people in New York and California don't care about fracking, although they should, because there's a lot of fracking could be done in New York. But for people who actually work for a living, those union members that Joe Biden was talking about, hard hat guys, fracking, oil and gas, trucking, pipelines, that's been so much of the economic success of America in the last 4 years. Trump opening up drilling in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, Trump ending Obama's restrictions in the Gulf, and even in the debate, Joe Biden was saying, well, I'm against fracking on federal lands. Why? And even on that, he proved that you can't trust him. I thought that was a big. Do we have Justin? Do we have the clip? I don't know if it's too early to grab that clip of the exchange on oil and gas. I thought it was incredible, and I think Joe Biden. I think Joe Biden didn't know, doesn't know, and is probably being told right now in frantic phone calls from his organizers in Pennsylvania, Ohio. There's fracking in Colorado. There's fracking in anywhere there's shale. There's potential fracking. You look at a map that's a lot of fracking. Sheila, I know you want to make a point. Go ahead and then we'll watch the video. Go ahead.
No, the point I was going to make is it's not just the workers. I've seen the movie Frack Nation. It sits on my shelf in my office here, and your friend Phelan McAleer made it to tell the story of how fracking saved Pennsylvania, because it didn't just provide jobs. It did something else, and that was that it saved family farms in Pennsylvania because the jobs dried up. People were losing their farms, but the lease agreements with the fracking companies provided extra revenue to save family farms. So it's not just these people who work in fracking that Joe Biden stands to absolutely destroy. It's everybody else in those communities too.
Yeah. Oh, that's for sure. I've been to Pennsylvania's fracking counties so many times, and just the hardware stores, the truck stores, I remember talking to the barbecue guy who like you have a frack pad. You have up to 250 men working there.
Yep.
Well, and in the middle of nowhere, they can't just order an Uber Eats like if you're living in Brooklyn. So the barbecue guy who feeds the men, there's so many people. I just sent you a map, Justin. If you click on that, I want to show folks shale, and forgive me for going heavy on this, but this is one of my favorite subjects. I know Sheila's got a foot in the oil and gas industry too. Her family's half ag, half oil. Sheila's in the oil province of Alberta, which has more accessible oil than any other country in the world, is in oil that's not owned by an OPEC tyranny. So, yeah, just click on that map just to boost it a bit. So those are, you can see at the top there, the shale that goes across from North Dakota into Saskatchewan. That's an enormous amount of fracking. You can see to the east, do you know where Pennsylvania is on the map? Marcellus Shale, and then down south in Texas, obviously. And so all those red, that's shale. You got your oil and gas. You got oil and gas in California. You can see it's in Colorado. You can see it's even in New York, but they won't let them drill there. It's in Ohio. It's in, it's an amazing, amazing thing that until 10 years ago was actually useless, because it's just oil in shale rock. How do you even get it out? So what you see there, it doesn't look like a political map. That's literally a kind of geological formation called shale that has oil droplets and gas droplets in it. That's the map that Joe Biden, you can put up just for one more second. That's the map that Joe Biden declared war on. So you can see Washington, D.C., not on the map. New York City, not on the map. There actually is oil and gas right in Los Angeles, but it's sort of hidden. But all those red spots there, that's what Joe Biden declared war on today. Now, there was no chance he was going to get North or South Dakota. There was no chance he was going to get Montana. I don't think Texas was really in play. But look at where it is. You got Ohio. You got Pennsylvania. Joe Biden declared war on, I guess you could say, the red states. But red in this case is shale, oil, and gas. All right, I'm done talking about shale, oil, and gas, Sheila.
It's just remarkable. And Joe Biden, I think there was a moment where he realized I said something really dumb. Because when Trump repeated it back to him, he said, "Oh, you're taking me out of context."
Yeah, we just heard the context,
hear what
buddy.
he said.
We literally just heard you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have that clip, Justin? Sorry, I'm throwing at you things in real time, but I'd love to watch that again. And I know people are saying, okay, Ezra, we get it. Yeah, oil and gas. But no. There are so many millions of workers who think, whoa, you're coming for me, especially with Joe Biden saying, oh, the unions love me, and the unions, and don't worry, this Green New Deal, there's going to be trillions of jobs. Yeah, but everyone who works in oil and gas or pipeline or trucking, they heard you loud and clear. Here, let's watch the clip again. Let's take a look.
What do you do? And you impose restrictions on the the pollutants coming out of those fence line communities.
Okay, I have one final
Would he
question.
close
It
down
falls-
the oil industry?
It falls.
Would you close
it
down the
falls-
oil
By the way, I
industry?
would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Whoa, that's
Transition.
a big statement.
It is a big statement
That's a big
because
statement.
I would stop
Why would you do that?
because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
And here's the deal, but
That's
you
a
can't
big
do
statement.
that. Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time, And I'd stop giving to the oil industry. I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. He won't give federal subsidies to the gas. Excuse me, to solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do
All
give
right.
it to solar and wind.
We
And
have
that's
one
maybe the
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because
We have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question,
is he is
Mr.
going to
President.
destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you
Okay.
remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I
Ohio.
have to get to the final question.
You know, I didn't recall that it was Trump who sparked that, because remember, it was this
Yeah.
sort of strange thing
Smart.
about. I thought it was a strange question. I've heard of this obscure Marxist concept called environmental racism, where you say,
Yeah.
"Oh, look, visible minorities live near a factory. There's a little bit more particulate pollution or whatever near the." Joe Biden says when he grew up there were oil slicks on his window. I'm sorry, I don't believe that.
No,
I also
definitely
don't
no.
believe that in the year 2020. I mean, I was just in Louisiana a few months ago. I was in Texas in the Permian Basin.
I live up the road from a refinery.
These are clean. It's clean. It's clean. Like he's just.
Yeah.
I don't know what world he's living in. And if you're living near a factory or a refinery, maybe you work there, or maybe it's because you live in more affordable accommodation. Like it was such a weird question, but the host put the question to Biden. So Biden answered it with that weird oil slick story. But as you just saw in the replay, it was Trump who asked the question, would you close down the oil industry? I like how he says it. He just quietly said, would you close down the oil industry?
Yeah.
And Biden not only answered, he answered honestly. And Trump just said, why would you do that? Or sorry, no, Trump didn't say that. Pardon me. The host joined in.
yes,
Trump
he did.
said, would you close down the oil industry? He said, yeah, phase it out. And the host picked it up, which I give her credit for. She didn't shut it down because it came from Trump. She didn't shut it down because it hurt Biden. She didn't shut it down because it was about something she didn't bring up. I give that Democrat credit. She did what a curious journalist, a skeptical journalist ought to do, which is to say, what do you mean? Or as she said, why would you do that? Why would you do that? A 5-word question. And Joe Biden said, I'm going to phase it out. And Trump, he looked to the camera, he said, remember this. This is the moment.
Yep.
Texas, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Ohio,
Ohio.
Colorado, all those places, Louisiana, Alaska. Not that some of those are Democrat. That
But there's some
was
purple states
the
there, yeah.
moment in the debate.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that was it was Biden's we're going to put a lot of coal miners out of work moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's he had that moment there. And really, if Joe Biden really thinks that we need to phase out gas, then he needs to get his son to quit taking money from Russian gas companies, maybe, because that's paying the bills. I mean, he thinks that American workers can all make Burisma money working on the windmills of the future, but he's not really against oil and gas. He's pro-hobbling the American economy to please, I guess, the radical parts of the Democrat Party.